All right, here we go. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Jason Flame with the Master Motivation Podcast on this Wednesday, April 26, 2023. Guys, I have probably one of the most exciting, energetic guests that we're going to have on this show because this is just a ball of energy right here. We got Mr. Mario Pulido, who I know better as Mario Banks, who was a professional wrestler, a wellness entrepreneur, a personal trainer, and a nutrition club owner. So this is his message. Have you ever thought that you were meant for more, that you had a larger purpose in life? Well, that's me, he says. I thought it was to be the next larger-than-life pro wrestling personality, but got tied down by corporate America, became a slave to a six-figure income, but knew there was more to life. So finally, I broke free, not knowing what I would do. But what I found changed my life, and now I help others do the same. Mario, welcome to the show.
Yo, welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that intro, man. Just hearing that gets me all fired up.
Now, listen, I got to ask you because, sometimes when I bring pro wrestlers on the show or I bring a martial artist on the show, I ask for a bio, and they list everything that they have ever done in their entire life in that bio. And you chose to go with more of a message as the introduction. What made you do that and not list all the things that you've done in your life? Because I know that you're accomplished in what you do.
Yeah, I think sometimes just the messages that we can share from the experiences that we gather are more impactful than some of the accolades that we kind of collect along the way, right? And so sometimes we get lost in like, oh my goodness, this person has this, and this, but what I truly believe is that we all have this greatness inside of us, and we're just sometimes afraid to tap into it for whatever reason. And I just want to let everybody know that, on the surface of where I came from, it looked like I had it all. Like, that's why I say that. I mean, I had a nice six-figure income, I had a house, I had the cars, I had all these things, but inside I still felt like a void or an emptiness. And I was so happy to really believe in myself and break through to really get to that point. And I just know if I can do that, everybody else can do that. So all the accolades alike, whatever have you. It's not that I'm not proud of them, but we've all accomplished different things. But I think we can all continue to push forward and grow more. And hopefully that message really hits home for some of our viewers.
Well, I'm looking forward to sharing your story and just kind of getting to know you a little bit better, and also allowing the audience to get to know you a little bit better. And hopefully we leave them with a little bit of motivation, some inspiration to bring that greatness from inside of them that, like you said, that we all have. So why don't you start by kind of giving everybody a little bit more of a background? Who is Mario Pulido? Where did you grow up? What was your upbringing like? What was school as a child like? Those kind of things. And then we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Newbury Park. So Newbury Park, California, not too far away from you, I believe, Jason. And grew up with a father who came over here illegally, and a mother who was born here. And it was very interesting in their sense that my dad only spoke Spanish. My mom only spoke English. So the way they had to communicate, because there was no Google Translate, things of that nature back in the day, right, is through drawing pictures and some interesting communication in that sense. Right. So I think they did the best that they could, like anybody, to, raise kids. They did try for 5 years to have me. So I'm glad that they didn't give up in that sense. But grew up in Newbury Park. They have very different mindsets and beliefs. But again, every parent tries to do the very best that they can with their kids. They both are servers as their background. So never really went to school or anything, which I'm not saying you have to or not. But they've reached a point of, I guess, a level of, education or whatever they believe to do what they could, right? And I saw that very early on as like they were always there to provide for me. But a lot of times, they worked a lot of crazy hours. So for a lot of time, I was left kind of to myself to kind of take care of. And then my first love I fell into was pro wrestling. So I spent a lot of hours watching wrestling and seeing all these larger life personalities and trying to emulate them. And it was pretty awesome. But I never really had a close attachment to my parents, even though they were always there trying to provide for me. As I move forward, because they weren't really around and all I did is kind of like learn things on my own. As I got into elementary school, I was a very shy kid, believe it or not, when I first started. kind of like looking or trying to grasp for that attention or just that love. Not that, again, that my parents didn't give me that. It was just different, right? So I'll never forget, I got into the second grade, and on the last day of the second grade, my teacher gives me this book. And in the last page of the book, I don't remember the book, but the message, right, because it's all about the message that she had in this book is, Mario, you're such an awesome person. Soon as you continue, like, start to believe in yourself, you're going to open yourself up, and you're basically be able to shine bright for the whole world. And for some reason, that really resonated for me. So that was like second grade. So getting out of second grade, going into third grade, coming back into the school year, all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but I developed more of a personality. I got a little bit more outspoken. And life started to kind of flow a little easier than the first couple of years of trying to figure it out. So it's always crazy because most people think I was just born this way and I'm crazy and I'm loud and I love to do all those things. But I really, I'm thankful to my teacher for that message that she gave me in second grade.
Well, that's pretty powerful. That had to be a powerful memory because, I mean, how many people remember something from the second grade that a teacher, took an interest in you and saw something in you, that early on? Usually we talk about, maybe middle school or high school, but that's a very early memory that meant, obviously it means a lot to you, and it changed your life, really, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's something I still sticks with me to this day. It's something that I talk about a lot. I mean, I had that instance, like I said, in elementary school, and then I had another one when I was in 10th grade. That kind of opened my eyes also, because I think I went a little bit too crazy with that big personality, and I started to be kind of more of a class clown, and I can be a little disruptive. And I remember the 10th grade teacher pulling me out, and she says, Mario, I'm just going to let you know, this type of behavior is going to lead to nothing in your life, and you're never going to amount to anything being this type of a person.
Wow.
And so it's such an extreme opposite, you know, and that's another thing that I've always really held on. And I've always come to the mindset of, let others think whatever they want of me. I know what I can be, like who I am and what I'm going to do, regardless of what they believe or not believe. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's something. So I look back at those two defining moments that these teachers had in my life. And here I am today, obviously learned so much from both of them in regards to their messaging.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, two totally opposite opinions or thoughts or influences. But those are the things that really impact us as a person and as we grow. We got Barry Cohen watching here, and he says Mario is great. He loved working with you at ringside. Good guy, Barry Cohen. Check he's got some cool podcasts, man. He's had some interviews with some high level guests, some really good guests. So make sure you guys check out Barry Cohen's podcast. Barry, type in the link to your Facebook page or where we can watch your videos, please. We talked about this pre-interview, maybe when we first booked, about you growing up in Newbury Park. Now, what year you graduated Newbury Park High School?
I graduated 2001.
Okay.
So 2001.
Yeah, we're about 9 years. 9 years difference. I grew up in Newbury Park as well. Craziness, right? That we kind of have that. As a matter of fact, my father built a ton of houses in Newbury Park as it was growing up. And Newbury Park reminds me so much of Moore Park, or the other way around. Moore Park reminds me so much of, Newbury Park. So just growing up there, it's such a great place. What are some of your favorite memories of growing up in MP?
Some of the cool stuff is I love Judy's Donuts. I know I'm a health fanatic and a freak, but I want to give them a quick shout out. I love Judy's Donuts. I still go there every Friday morning for their French donuts. It really creates this nostalgia for me. But I remember that was always kind of comforting for me. I used to go to school at Manzanita. I don't know what it's called anymore, but I went to school at Manzanita and I lived in Las Casitas. So just to kind of paint a picture, it's probably 2-3 miles away. But that used to be kind of like my walk to and from school. And I would always remember kind of fueling up with the Judy's Donuts either before or after school. So I love that. I was a big basketball fan. So I played basketball all through, elementary and then into junior high and even a little bit into high school before you realize, man, there's politics in everything. You can't just have fun, right? But those are some of my fondest memories, just running around. I grew up, then I moved houses. We grew up on Windy. And on Windy, there was there's a little liquor store called Copper Still Liquor, still there. It's like the only thing still in that plaza there. But I remember just getting basketball cards and running around. And it's funny, I'm actually doing this video from that plaza today. and it's actually where one of my nutrition clubs is, which is Simply Healthy here in Newbury Park. So it's kind of cool to see it come full circle of like, man, I used to be a kid running around in the parking lot, looking at basketball cards, going to McDonald's, getting the little Monopoly things, for your board. And now I actually have my own retail storefront in that very same plaza. So it's pretty cool. Sometimes I got to pinch myself that it's even real,
Now, not too far from there. Let's see. No, this is a different area. Well, Country Harvest, one of our restaurants, literally used to be right across the street from that. But was Casey's the arcade? Was Casey's still around by the time you moved to Newbury Park and grow up? Casey's,
no, man. I wish I had an arcade. I mean, I think as a kid growing up here, it's always kind of like, man, there's nothing to do here, right? You're bored. And the problem is the kids that say it now, 30 years later, they have so much more than we did. But man, I wish I would have had this arcade.
Yeah, the arcade was awesome. I forget what year it went out, but that was over by the 7-Eleven parking lot over there where Country Harvest is now. Coach's Ice Cream, Country Harvest is over there now. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I have such great memories of growing up there. So many friends that I met through, school and martial arts and everything else. So yeah, it's just kind of nostalgic to talk about. We used to ride our quads, man, at the top of N2 Park Road. We rode quads and motorcycles all day long. I can say it now because, statute of limitations is probably gone, but we used to ride all over town with our quads. I mean, we would go everywhere. That was a good time. It was kind of the Wild West, back then when we first moved there in the early 80s. So it was a lot of fun. Tell me a little bit more about sports and, coming up playing basketball. Did you play any other sports? What else did you do in high school?
Yeah, so it's funny. So just kind of, I remember a big transition in my life early on was leaving I left Manzanita and I went to Walnut Elementary School. Mm-hmm. And this was like 5th grade to 6th grade. And at the time, it was like the 92-93 NBA Finals. And obviously the Bulls were going for like this three-peat, right? And for some reason, I always wanted to be like I don't want to go with the crowd and like what they wanted. So on the opposite side was one of the largest, biggest personalities that I've ever seen. And I instantly fell in love with him. And he says he doesn't want to be a role model, but he was kind of my role model. He was my first one. And I'm talking about Charles Barkley. So Charles Barkley, I was just like gravitated to him. And so it was so cool to see him and how he performed. So I'll never forget the first day of 6th grade, jumping into a new school. Not only do I go in like a Charles Barkley jersey, but I got like the shorts on, I got his shoes on, I got like the warm-up jacket on, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, who is this freak here? You know what I mean? And, but it made such a big statement that it was able to allow me to just throw myself into the culture. And even though I was uncomfortable, right, I got very comfortable easily because I just forced myself into it, which is, as I think about what I've done now in my life, that's what it's all about, right? Growth really comes from doing things that are uncomfortable, and you realize it's really not that big of a deal once you get to the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So basketball was a big influence on me from there, and made a lot of friends, did a lot of things. As I got into high school, I always regretted not doing wrestling because I was a huge pro wrestling fan, but I never really saw myself kind of getting on the mat and rolling around and doing all those things. Even though I can appreciate what they did, it was just, I really got caught up in like the entertainment side of it all, not so much the physical aspect of it all, even though I love both. Right. But I kind of wish I would have done wrestling, but basketball was really the thing that I stuck with throughout, elementary and into high school. And then for a while I broke off, didn't do high school basketball. I did freshman year. But there's a lot of politics, obviously, that go into that kind of stuff. So I ended up playing a club league, and that was super cool. And I've always had like this personality, either because of Charles Barkley or wrestling or whatever. So then I actually created our own like little magazine for the club or for my club basketball league, and created storylines and like interviews and did all this. And then having like that entrepreneurial mindset, start selling these things at the game. So it's funny, all the things that I love doing just for fun was really teaching me some great lessons further on into life.
Wow. Very cool. Hey, Danny Devine is watching. Danny Cleary. Mario is a high energy, great dude. Thanks for watching, Danny.
Yeah. Thank you, Danny.
And then we got Juanita watching. Thank you, Juanita. And Barry's probably still out there too. Let's talk about, the pro wrestling, right? When did you discover pro wrestling?
Well, like I said, I kind of grew up a lot on my own in front of the TV. And as a child of the 80s, I mean, it was big, right? I mean, it was everywhere you went and whatnot. So I just fell in love right away with it. I just love the big personalities. I love the storylines. I'll never forget like Macho Man and Elizabeth. Macho Man's my favorite, right? And so like the way I learned relationships was through Macho Man and Elizabeth. And it probably wasn't the best things to learn if you're familiar with their story, especially behind the scenes. But man, on TV, it's like, man, all I want to find is my Miss Elizabeth, you know? And it's kind of really stuck with me. And those are some of the fondest memories I have, is just being able to connect and watching those shows. And even right now when life sometimes gets ahead of me or what have you, I mean, obviously I have my faith and my religion that I go to, but sometimes when I want to escape the real world, I just kind of go back to that 80s wrestlings and I get lost in it. And it's a beautiful thing, you know? And
yeah.
And now to be able to share with my kids is absolutely incredible. Right. So I've been one of those people. I always wanted to have kids, and especially a little mini me. And I'm blessed to have 3 beautiful little boys. And it was so cool. This last year, WrestleMania was at SoFi. And I've been to a handful of WrestleManias prior, but this is the first time I actually got to go to WrestleMania with my boys and be able to share some of those memories and create those experiences with them. And like that stuff is super priceless, you know, so I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing like, you know, growing up, being a wrestling fan, loving it. I myself, I was the same way. Absolutely loved it. Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, just the whole bit, right? You just got into I loved all of it. I loved the physical nature of it. I love this, you know, it's basically the male soap opera, right? I mean, it's just you get into the storylines. But when we had my son, you know, I remember him first kind of getting into it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. Because I had felt out of wrestling, just didn't really watch it, didn't talk about it. But then it was my son that started watching it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then we start watching it together, and then we had the same experience. We were able to go to, you know, a couple pay-per-views. And fortunately for us, you know, we had MPW running every Friday night out here in Moore Park. And my son was all about it. Like, he was there every Friday. He and a couple of his friends were like the diehards. And like, I don't know, it's just that for me was that resurgence of, I just love pro wrestling. I just love everything about it. And he got to be part of it. And then, you know, he kind of grew out of it a little bit, but we still watch it, you know, quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I'm currently watching on Hulu. If you guys haven't seen it, the Legends series of all, you know, all the old legends, just their stories. I just watched The Undertakers. That was really good. So yeah, it is a really fun escape, you know, to kind of just have that moment to just fall out of reality and just enjoy that show. So now, when did you get into pro wrestling yourself? How did you start pro wrestling?
You know, everybody comes into your life for different reasons, and sometimes you don't realize it at that moment, you know. But one of my ex-girlfriends at the time, I just was celebrating my 25th birthday, and she's like, hey, I got a surprise for you. Throw on some sweats. We're gonna go somewhere. I'm like, throw on some sweats. Like, where are we going, right? And so, anyways, I do it. We jump in the car and we drive in and we get off at Van Nuys Boulevard. And I'm like, this is weird. We don't go out here for whatever reason. And all of a sudden, we pull up to this place. It's like dark, super dark on the outside, what have you. And I'm like, okay. She's like, okay, we're gonna go in the back and walk in. And I'm like, okay. And we walk in, and oh my goodness, there it is for the first time live that I can touch a wrestling ring. And it was awesome. It was such a cool and amazing experience. And from there, I guess, yeah, we did one of those free little clinics that sometimes that we throw on and whatnot. And to get in a wrestling ring for the first time, it is crazy, right? I mean, I'm sure you can have that experience too, Jason, but like, you see all these things on TV and you have this thought of what it is. And then you do the research of like, oh, this is really what it is. But then you get in the ring and it's like, no joke, right?
Oh, yeah.
That hurts. Those ropes sting, you
That's
know? Right. It is incredible, but it's such a good pain that you feel. And it was really cool. And then all of a sudden, they put a mic in front of me, which obviously I'm not too shy to speak, but I didn't even know I was going to be there, right? So all I know, the next thing I know is the mic comes on, they're like, all right. And then the guy's pretending to be, it's Ryan Katz, GQ Money, Daniel Magnus. Those were the first 2 people kind of that took me under their wing and started to train me. And they put a mic in front and they're like, okay, we're Vince McMahon. We're telling you to go out there live. You got to cut a promo. Who are you? And it's like that. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, shoot, I'm a bank manager at the time, right? I used to be a manager at Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, all of them. So I'm like, I'm Mario Banks. I'm never a gamble. I'm always a guarantee. And that you can bank on. So from the very first second that I ever had a mic inside a wrestling ring, it came to me. And obviously here we are, 15 years later, I'm still doing the same shtick, which kind of works, you know? So it's super cool. Really thankful for that ex-girlfriend putting me in the game. And then just the guys and everybody that I've met along the way, kind of just training me and getting me up to speed. And I don't know if I'm jumping too far with this, but what's super cool now is, as we talk about our kids, right? I like doing the wrestling. I like being in the ring, and it's super cool. But like, I can take it, I can leave it. I got to experience it. Sometimes I wish I could have gone more with it, but corporate America kind of held me back, and that's okay. But now I have a 6-year-old. His name's Mateo, or he'd get mad if I called him Mateo. He's really AJ Mick. That's his little wrestling stage name. And to be able to experience that with him and like have him come out as my manager or get involved in a ring, like to see how excited he gets at that level is honestly like what it's all about, you know, because it unlocks the child in you still. And to be able to embark that or spark it in somebody else is super cute.
Yeah. That just takes it to, you know, to a totally different level for you. Cause it's one thing when you're doing it for yourself and because you love it, you enjoy it, but then you get your kids involved. I mean, I've had the opportunity to coach my son in, you know, martial arts, of course, baseball, soccer, and all the sports. And it's like, you know, I loved playing sports, but I really loved coaching sports with my son and having that time with my son. And that, I think that's what's more important than anything is those memories and that time and, you know, the lessons that can be taught, you know, through some of these things. Cause, you know, there's a lot that's going on in their young life. And, you know, just to be able to share that with them, I think is super cool. So let's talk about, you know, the career that you were in banking and how did that start?
Yeah, so I've always been into working. You know, school was cool, but school was not really for me. I don't know if that was my avenue. I was always into like, let me try to make some money. And so even as early as like 12 and 13, I was going to neighbors' houses. I was, you know, trying to find yard work to do, car washes, let me organize your, I don't know, filing stuff, whatever I can do to make a couple of dollars. I was really into that. And then at 14, I got a chance to work at Jack's Deli out in Westlake. And that's where my mom was. She was a waitress there. And so I kind of came in to be a host or a busboy or whatever have you. And it was super cool. And I would start to work a lot. And then they started to like me there and they would start to trust me with the responsibility of taking cash or taking the deposits to the bank. Well, because I'm a social person, I start bringing the deposits to the bank every day. I start making a relationship with them. And they're like, gosh, Mario, it'd be so cool if you started to work here. So at this point, it's like I'm 17 years old. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm only 17. I think at the time you had to be like 18 or something. They're like, well, are you almost 18? I said, yeah. And this is back in the day where things were allowed to do that or whatnot. So they're like, yeah, like, well, if you'd like to apply or whatever. So I was so excited because, again, at an early age, I knew that I wanted to be at least more than a server, right? That's what I saw my parents do. And not that it's anything wrong with that, but the idea that like, oh, maybe this is my avenue to do something different. And I get to wear a suit and tie. I'm all about it. And you know why I want to wear a suit and tie, Jason, right? I'm going to give you one guess.
I'm thinking it makes you look professional. It makes you look like one of the pro wrestlers.
It makes me look like, woo, Ric Flair, styling and profiling, and I get to do that each and every single day. Why wouldn't I want to wear a suit and tie, right? So I was all on board with this. Super excited to do that. And then, so that got my foot in the door, and I like to learn and take on responsibilities and challenge myself and so on and so forth. So by the time I was 21 years old, I was a bank manager already at that point in time, which was super cool. And I think at the time, probably one of the youngest bank managers of all time for Bank of America. So cool, though, for me. But like a lot of times the customers and things of that nature didn't really understand. Like they want to speak to the manager and here's like a little 21-year-old punk coming up to them, right? So that's why I decided to start growing out some facial hair, you know, which I still have today. But it was a really cool experience and it just taught me a lot. And the banking world is kind of, you know, through all the leadership skills that they put me through and all like the personal relationship stuff, like you just learn so many aspects in some of the jobs if you're open to getting everything that you need out of it. So obviously I wouldn't be where I was today without some of the skills that I learned along the way from there, which was super cool. And then I had this big pivotal moment. I was about 6 years into Bank of America, 7 years, and I'm a loyal guy, right? Bank of America gave me the opportunity. So like, how do you leave that? But then you quickly realize in corporate America that like as much as everybody wants the best, you kind of get held back a little bit, right? And so I'll never forget how scary it was for me to actually like jump banks. So I left Bank of America and I went to Wells Fargo. And again, it's like, man, this is scary. This is all new. And like, am I really as good as I think I am? And then, oh my God, they want to pay me how much money to go do the same job? And, but I forced myself to make that transition. Obviously, it made sense from a monetary standpoint. But what it did for me was realize that my skill set that I've learned here, I can actually take anywhere and be successful, because at the end of the day, it's not just them. It's I'm that tool. I'm that force behind it all. So I made the jump to Wells Fargo. That was cool. I was there for a few years. And then it's kind of the same thing. You start to realize that like the only way to really get a hold of corporate America, unfortunately, is jump around, because corporate America typically tends to like give you money up front and then like give you 1 or 2% as you go. Right. And in order to kind of get to that next level, you got to keep jumping around, which I did. But then you quickly also realize that like, I'm never going to be the CEO of a bank as much as I wanted to be. And I had these huge aspirations of doing it. It just probably wasn't going to happen. So fast forward from there, I ended up going to be like a sales manager for a credit union, and credit unions are great, but it's certainly not for me and my personality, right? It was a small credit union. I want to take over the world. They just want to go get a paycheck and go home. And so they try to like bring me in to like build up their sales team and do all this stuff. And all the ideas I have, they're like, yeah, we'll save that for later, Mario, you know? So again, I was making good money, but at the idea of just waking up every day to just like go clock in and go home, like I just couldn't do it. So I left that. I went back into like retail banking, which is at Chase, was there for about a year or two. And then for whatever reason, I just don't like, you're told one thing and then the next second, like they're changing your mind. You got to do something else. And it's like, how am I supposed to get back like behind something when like every 2 seconds we're changing our mindset? And like, I'm trying to like, you can't validate like what I'm trying to tell you. Like I can't rah. And then the next minute, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it that way. So I just realized that at that point, corporate America just wasn't for me anymore. Like I feel like I outgrew it in some ways. And I'm not saying that's like good or bad or whatever, but that was just me, you know, like I couldn't take it anymore, that I had this good income, but couldn't do any more with it. Didn't have like a purpose in life to like, or a fulfillment of like, man, I'm really making an impact in the world. And like one day when I'm gone, like I'm going to be able to leave a legacy or like really leave something to my kids. Like I want to show them more. So I got into a little scuffle for the last time with my boss at that point. And I just decided, you know what? I'm out. And everyone's like, oh my God, what are you doing? You talk about a storyline. It was a pretty big storyline at that point in time in my life. Right. And I'm like, I'm over it. Like there's got to be more to life than just trying to get as much money as possible. Right. And that, so that was basically the start to the finish of my banking little run.
Well, I mean, it's a great story to tell and great information for people to hear, because, you know, one question that I've been asking people a lot lately is when we start talking about school, right? And you chose not to go to school, correct? And
Right.
so but I asked people, I said, did you feel like you had to go to school, or did you want to go to school? And so with going into corporate, you know, did you feel like you had to do that? Is that what you thought was going to be your success, or in the beginning, did you really want to do that and have a different view? You know what I'm saying? It's like certain people start out with one idea of how their career is going to go, and you find out that this is like you said, this is not me. This is not working, and all the money in the world probably would have never fulfilled you in what you were doing. You had a greater purpose that was waiting for you. So tell me, you know, it was obviously a hard change. What were the steps that you took to bow out of corporate America and decide to become an entrepreneur, you know, to start your own businesses and lead you to where you are today?
Yeah, I you know, there was always this internal struggle because of the school thing, right? Like I didn't have school to fall back on ever. So like all I knew was like, I've been in banking, I've been in financial services, you know, at that point it was like 17 years. And it's like, man, it's scary to give up the money and the lifestyle. But at the same time, like, what am I going to go do? Because on paper, all people are going to look at me as like, oh, he doesn't have a degree. And so sometimes I feel like the degree is great for those that want to go get it and do it. I'm not ever going to stay. It's not. But sometimes the degree just comes out as like, well, this shows that this kid is responsible and he can start and get to the finish point, right? When you go through college. And you start to believe, or I started to realize, like, my resume can speak for itself in that sense. And I can pretty much, relate to anybody and create a relationship. And so for me, I started to like just believe in myself a little bit more. I started doing a little bit more personal development. So I'm just trying to like work on that mindset of what that could look like, right? And to the point where I had no idea how this is going to happen. And I'm probably transitioning a little bit into the next segue, but I started hanging out with different types of people. And I always butcher the saying, but like you become the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most, right? And so I did not know this, but by me changing the people that I was hanging out with, all of a sudden I was feeding my mind with different things and different thoughts to give me the courage to go ahead and finally say, hey, I know I'm meant for more. I know I can be successful in whatever I can do because of my hard work and my skill set that I have. And so I decided to just push away and go for it blindly. And it's amazing sometimes what happens with the universe, because like I honestly feel like God's always testing you, or use universe or whatever you want to have. The universe is always testing you to how bad you really want something, because at first they're going to throw you a lot of things your way. They're going to hold you back from doing that just to test it to see how bad you want it. And so for me to finally break free and go, it was amazing what happened the day after I decided to leave corporate America.
Wow. Now, while all this is going on, while you're banking, while you're, getting ready to make this transition in your life, was wrestling part of your life? And were you ever in the mindset that maybe I'll try to make it to the WWE? Like, I mean, listen, you've been around a lot of wrestlers, and some people are constantly chasing the dream, as they say, right? And like trying to get there. And was that a thought for you? Was that ever something that you considered?
Oh, of course, man, right? Like, what kid doesn't want to grow up being a pro wrestler and go to WWE and have a WrestleMania moment, and you do all of those things? And so for me, I had a little bit of an opportunity when I was earlier in the banking career, kind of like I was already a manager, kind of seasoned. I started doing a little bit more traveling. I was wrestling every weekend. I was doing all that kind of stuff. And I had an opportunity to do a little bit of a tryout. I think it was going to be up in Sacramento or something at the time. And at the same time, we had a big like work conference that week. I think it was for Wells Fargo. And it was like, what do you do? Right. And so obviously at one point it's like, well, no matter what happens, whatever it takes, I'm going to go do this. Right. Because that's my dream. But at the same time, you start to think like, man, this is what pays me. Like, right. And when you it's like, do I get 6 figures? And like, I can't just like, at that point in time, it's like, I can't risk a 6-figure in thing for a chance. And so like, I don't want to say I regret the decision, because obviously it helped me get to where I am today, but I always do kind of think about that moment and like, should I have went for the tryout or should I just, continue along this kind of a path? So sure, I absolutely wanted that. But I think the other thing for me is I hate driving. So there's a lot of driving that goes on when you're a pro wrestler, right? And so for the 10 minutes of glamour that you get on the screen or in the ring, or that adrenaline, which is like unmatched, there's so much behind the scenes work and so much sitting around and things of that nature that I didn't really enjoy. And I always knew that I wanted to be a dad and I wanted to have a family. So I knew if I was constantly on the road, it would be very hard to have those type of things in life. So ultimately, that's kind of where I stuck with like, you know what, I'm still going to have some fun on the indie scene. I'm still going to collect my nice checks from the bank at the time. But it's just unfortunately wasn't going to be my path at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I know but that's a hard pill to swallow too, right? Especially when you decide to step away. And speaking about stepping away or retirements, we got Hell Kid watching right now, so you can give a shout out to Hell Kid. But because I recently kind of faced that decision. That's like, dude, first of all, I never thought that I was going to go to WWE. That was never even a thought in my brain, because I started wrestling at 38 years old, right? Just for fun, just for, kind of happened to meet the right people, met Barry Cohen out of everybody. And he introduced me to Paul, and that's how I led to MPW. But, when it starts kind of, your hobby starts to interfere with your lifestyle and interfere with family time. And, I did have a thought when I was much younger that's what I might want to do. And I'm like, but how am I going to be on the road with kids and be married? And like, I just didn't think that could ever work in my head. So, stuck with the career, and here I am still running a martial arts school and a couple other opportunities. And now here you are, right? You've kind of stepped to the side on wrestling a little bit, but you're an entrepreneur, and you've opened, you have 3 locations, correct?
Yeah.
And
so
go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, when I left corporate America at the time, I don't know how many people are familiar with Herbalife, but that's essentially what I do behind my nutrition club. So at the time, I was still at the bank, and I was talking about like how I met some new friends. Went to go support my sister. She was teaching Zumba out of a little fitness center with like some Zumba in the background. I went there and I did that. I really loved the community. And then I tried the shake in front, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. Cause most protein shakes and what have you, kind of chalky, things of that nature. And obviously being in wrestling and an athlete, all these things, you're always looking for different things. I used to be hooked on Starbucks 3-4 times a day. And then I tried like a coffee protein shake, and I'm like, man, this is so good. And they happened to be starting a challenge the very next day. And I asked my sister, hey, do you want to do this? She's like, oh yeah, let's do it. I end up getting on this product. I lose 14 pounds. I win $200 for doing it. I felt awesome. And I was like, man, this is so cool. So then I started hanging out with people that were more of an entrepreneurial mindset, that were using Herbalife as their vehicle now to go create some value in the marketplace. And I started doing that, and I started, again, more personal development, more growing. I'm still getting a better result. And this whole time people are like, oh my goodness, Mario, what are you doing? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know, dude. I'm drinking some shakes. Go talk to this person, kind of a deal, right? And because of my result, it kind of led into this business opportunity that I wasn't really looking for, right, at all. Like I was still in corporate America making good money. But I started making a little bit of money, and I'm like, man, this is so cool. And then I saw the guy that got me into it. He was running that gym with the Zumba thing. I'm like, man, how much cooler would this be? At this point in time, I love the suit and tie. I still love to wear it, but it was kind of nice to just like wear jerseys and stuff to work and things of that nature, right? So I'm like, man, this is his lifestyle. He gets to go work out. He gets to go inspire people. This is so cool. But am I really going to like leave this to do that? And then it just kind of hit me. This is like about now, fast forward about 3 months from the time I went to that first Zumba to where I ended up leaving corporate America. After 3 months of like, man, I see what they're doing. I believe in this product. Like, this is something I can take all the skill set I've ever learned in corporate America, and now I can go apply it to like go build my own dreams and help other people do theirs rather than just working so hard for somebody else's, And so I decided to leave corporate America. The very next day, I'm sitting with the coach that I'm talking to, and he's like, hey, he gets a phone call from somebody else, and he goes, and there's basically the conversation goes something along the lines like there's a nutrition club in Westlake. Those people want to get out of it. We're looking for a new owner. Do you by chance know of anybody? And my coach happens to be looking at me, and he's like, I think I'm looking at the guy. And it's kind of goosebumps when I hear it, because obviously I leave corporate America, like I think on a Wednesday. Thursday, I'm sitting with him, talking to him. This phone call happens to come in right then when we're talking. And even though I had known nothing about really Herbalife or nutrition clubs or anything of that nature, because I've only been doing it for 3 months, it's like, yeah, let's do it. Let me jump on this opportunity and let me run with it. And so this is 2018. I kind of just jump in. I start, building a little bit of a business with it. And anybody that knows Herbalife, it's multi-level marketing, right? So on the surface, we have these retail storefronts that are really great. Come in, you get healthy fast food. If that's what you want to do, awesome. But if you'd like to do a program or something at home, put on some muscle, lose some weight, get some energy, happy to help you with that. If you do that, it creates a opportunity, whether that's more referrals for me or me to teach you how to do this as a business opportunity. So if I get to teach you how to do what I do, I make a residual income. So for me, residual income was super sweet, because I never was going to be an actor, never going to be a singer, but this is a way to make some money for teaching other people what to do. And I started thinking about my corporate America days as a bank manager. Man, I developed so many tellers to bankers and bankers to managers and things of that nature, and thinking, man, how cool would it be after all those 17 years if I would have got a little bit of a cut from the company for saying, thank you for training my people to get up to where they ultimately are now. And I'm like, man, residual income is super cool. So I do all aspects of it. Obviously, I run the nutrition club. We make some income there. I help people get a result if that's what they want. And then I get to help people also make some money through a business opportunity. And it's super cool. One, to help somebody feel really good or feel better about themselves when they look at themselves in front of a mirror. Super cool. But then to really be able to help somebody put some money, extra supplemental income in their pockets for helping other people do that same type of thing is such a crazy feeling that even if I didn't get paid, this is what I would love to do. It gives me that same like satisfaction that I get like when I'm in the pro wrestling ring, right? Like it's like just a goosebump. Like it's hard to describe unless you've really done it. And so with that type of energy and what we started to create, I went from that one club in Westlake. Then I branched off and I got a friend of mine that's been, about 20-year friend. And that's the club I'm actually in right now here in Newbury Park. For the longest time, I don't know if you're used to network marketing. People are always like, oh, come try this, come do this. You'll be great
every day.
Right? Every day. So
every day.
I used to get that my whole life and be like, yeah. It's a pyramid scheme. What? I don't want anything to do with it. Great. Now this is what I do, even though it's not a scheme because I understand it more. It's just not what society tells you is the norm, whatever have you. Eventually my friend sees that I'm not going anywhere, that I keep getting a better result. I'm keep growing with it. That it's like, hey, why not let me just take a look at it? So at that point, she takes a look at it. I help her lose a bunch of weight. She gets inspired. She leaves corporate America. She's now running this club here in Newbury Park, being very successful. And then the same thing kind of happened again for the one we have in Thousand Oaks. So there's these 3 clubs now we have within the Conejo Valley, which is super cool. But then I also have a team of about 90 distributors or supervisors throughout the country that as a whole, we have about 14 of these clubs that I get to make a little bit of a residual income from just through, helping or mentorship when they need me, which is, again, it gets me super fired up just to talk about it because it's really changing the lives of not only these individuals, but like the rest of the country. And then obviously opens up to the world as well.
That's amazing. Well, as you probably know, I am sitting in Nothing But Healthy in Moore Park, California, which is part of the Herbalife family. And so my whole family is I'm either drinking a loaded tea or I'm drinking a protein shake every day. Loaded teas. Which one is it?
I do strawberry limerita.
Nice. Love it. No, those are great. So, I know the value of the program that you're teaching, but at the same time, as you're talking about everything you're saying about helping build people up, helping people, to me, it's on the same page as martial arts and how I see children grow from 3 years old into instructors at 12, 13, 14 years old, be able to have a career in martial arts, be able to give back to other people. All of this, just really goes hand in hand, side by side, with each other. So I love the message that you're relaying as well, because it's not just about the network marketing. It's not just about the multi-level marketing. It's about getting people and helping them, like you see, find their greater purpose, right? Because I've had students that have come in, they didn't know anything about martial arts, right? They probably start as a kid because mom or dad wanted them to have discipline or focus, but then they start to have these leadership skills, and now those leadership skills, they take them to school, and now they're doing things at school. They become an entrepreneur. I've had several students recently come to me starting their own businesses and just asking me for advice. I have one who's wants to start a music production company. His brother wants to start a candle company. And I'm like, wait a second, I taught you martial arts when you were kids, but now you're asking me for business advice, and we're helping each other grow. I just think that that's amazing, and I think it's awesome all at the same time. I do want to address this question, and thank you to Juanita and Gabby. We're having a little side conversation as we're going. They're chatting with each other, but Gabby did ask, are Herbalife products good for people with diabetes?
Yes, absolutely they are. And I think this is the thing that everybody thinks a lot of times. You've tried the shakes, right, Jason? So like a lot of times they come across like, oh my goodness, there's got to be so much sugar and how can this be healthy kind of a thing, right? But like that's the beauty behind the Herbalife. Now, I'm not the scientist or the doctor or anything that formulates the product, but all I know, it's a product that makes you feel like you're cheating and gives you healthy. So a lot of times for diabetics, they're looking for things that still give them that satisfaction from that craving of something sweet, but that's ultimately healthy for them. So that's what all of our Herbalife products can do. So it's not just for diabetics or non-diabetics. Literally we have a product for every lifestyle and life stage that there is. But great question.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that Gabby's watching here from Canada. So thank you, Gabby, for asking that question. Hellkid wants to bring back the tag team.
Is it what was it called? Something He's going to hate me for not remembering. I'm sure he's got it. You're going to type it in there, Hell Kid?
Yeah.
I'm ready to bring back the tag team at any time. But now you do know my one requirement as a pro wrestler is my little man, AJ Mix, got to be involved somehow. I don't care about getting paid. He just needs to be involved somehow.
We know that Hell Kid can get behind that, because he used to always pitch different storylines with my son and how he wanted to have my son beat him up and all this. Like, we had a good thing going for a little while when we were in Moore Park. That was a lot of fun. So
and I love Hell Kid, but at some point in time, we gotta get rid of the kid word for him. I mean, I know he's timeless, baby, right? Diamonds last forever, baby. I know, but at some point, anyways, I love everybody. It's amazing, again, just all the wonderful people that you get to meet throughout the industry. Jason, like, you think about pro wrestling, like, we're all like lifelong fans, and like we all get to like share in this thing that we love and all the cool relationships you get to build along the way. So it's been pretty special. I mean, obviously wrestling's brought us into each other's lives, which is super cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, one of my best friends, Danny Devine, we met through pro wrestling, and like we work out really regularly today. He's someone that although he's almost 15 years my junior, but he has been a real inspiration in my Christian faith, being a Catholic, and we go to the same church, and we have a Tuesday Thoughts where we come on and we talk a little bit about our faith. And I know that that's something that's powerful and strong for you. So talk a little bit about your ministry and talk about some of the things that you do with your church.
Yeah. So I was raised Catholic, and it's great, baptized, did the whole thing. I was an altar boy, and I'm just sharing my experiences. That's all I could possibly share. Right. So I just know that a lot of times I would go to church, and, you go to church and then you leave church. It almost felt like, quote unquote, a job. Right. In the sense that I'm clocking in, I'm doing my time, and I'm leaving. It's not that I'm not spiritual or didn't have a relationship with God. But recently, this past year, I reached out to some members of the Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ, and I started to go attend some of their sacrament meetings. And what I felt there was just an incredible feeling. I mean, not only did I feel an overwhelming presence of the Spirit, but just of everybody wanting to, get to know you and be part of you. And it really kind of developed like this culture. And so it's something that I've really embraced. And I loved how, people get up and they share more of a testimony than just necessarily reading a scripture. And it's something that I can really resonate with. And I'm a big feeling guy. So like wherever, like, obviously my gut feeling to leave corporate America or whatever have you, like what I feel there is what I focus on. And so from there, it's kind of what I do now. And I've started to serve in a lot more ways, in the sense that I run a boot camp every Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday morning. Sometimes we switch off and on for all their members, which is super cool. I help, coordinate different events for them. And then what I really love is that, for the last 5 years, I've been really working on people's like physical health, their mental state of mind and believing themselves. And now this has really allowed me an avenue to give them their spiritual side of things as well. So, and ultimately that's what I think the legacy that I'm here to live is to try to help people in any way that I can, in any capacity, and try to get them whole and feeling better about themselves on all three levels. And I think that's the big mission. And I finally found it, and it took some time, but one road led to another, and here we are. So it's all about giving back and trying to live our best lives that we possibly can, and walking, in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, our Savior.
Good for you. That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I want to dive in a little bit before we wrap things up today, and just kind of talk about your family. We talked about your boys a little bit. We talked about your oldest son being kind of involved in pro wrestling. But listen, what are some things that as a father now you are trying to instill in your kids that either you learned when you were younger from your father or you didn't learn? And I know we touched a little bit on this before, but I just want to, because I always feel like we learn from everybody, right? And I think that there's two things that we learn from people. We learn what to do and what we want to do, and we learn what not to do and what we don't want to do. So I just want to kind of pull that, experience as a father. What are some things that you're instilling in your boys?
Yeah, it's so funny you hit that, because I truly believe that, right? There's a lot of great things from all parents that you can learn either way from, right? And so I think me struggling, kind of feeling loved, and again, not because they didn't love me in their way, but it just didn't resonate with me, right? So one of those books out there, The 5 Love Languages, is super key because we all resonate differently with love. And I believe there's even a book about with your children on one of those. So for me, I just try to show my kids unconditional love. I mean, I'm a highly, obviously, energetic person, but I also try to like lots of hugs, lots of kisses, lots of motivation, and everything that they do on any level, just that level of excitement to show that I truly believe in them, because that's what I think as a youngster, people are, you gravitate to that kind of stuff. Like you want to be thought of in a positive light, or like, and give them that reinforcement that they're looking for. So I think that's one of the things that I really, really stress with my kids. I think the other thing that I really see is that, again, nothing to knock the school system or anything of that nature, but my kids are in public school because at this point in time, that's kind of what I can afford, right? But I think sometimes what happens is there's so many kids in this classroom, and the teachers are doing their very best to get to each kid and do what they can do. But sometimes these kids are not getting the attention or the help that they need. And so what happens is they start to like cry out in a sense of like, well, now I'm going to be a little bit rebellious, or like, I'm going to start disrupting the class, not because like they want to do that, but that they're not getting, they feel dumb. So they need to break away from that to like feel like, oh, I'm a cool kid, even though I don't understand what I'm doing. And I think coming from a mindset or a place where I can understand that, I can help my kids get through certain issues a little bit better, rather than just reacting to the, why are you being like that? Why are you not listening? Why are you doing this? And yelling and punishing, really just trying to have open communication and get down to the like root of the problem. And so my oldest is actually Mario. He's 8, and he hates when he gets in trouble because he knows all we're going to do is talk. Like, we're going to sit down. We're not going to go anywhere until we can just continue to talk and like peel back the onion to get to like ultimately what the root of the issue is, you know? So I think just coming from that avenue is important. And then obviously just embracing them and whatever they love, and encourage them around it, right? Like, so my kid's great at football, loves playing football, thought he was going to keep doing football this year. He's like, you know what? I don't want to wear the pads. I don't want to train. I don't want to do this every single day. So I'm just not going to do football. So instead of like forcing them along that line, hey, we'll play it out. Like, what do you want to do? Kind of a deal, you know? And realizing that all your kids are just different. And sometimes I have a hard time understanding that. Like, me and my sister are polar opposites. Love her. She's awesome. But we grew up in the same household. How do we become so different, right? And understanding that about my 3 kids. So Mario 8, he's like my athlete. Mateo, my 6-year-old, AJ Mick, he's the entertainer, doesn't really do sports, but man, put him in front of a camera, he lights it up, right? He's going to be the star of a play coming up. Awesome. And I'm excited because I have a third one, little Milo. He's only 1.5. So I don't know what he's going to be yet, but whatever it's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm excited for it.
Well, I can see that you have a lot of love for your kids, and you love being a dad. You know, to me, I don't think there was a greater job that I could have been given as to be a dad to my kids and watch them. And you're 100% right. I mean, my 2 kids, I have a daughter, 21, my son is 18, and they're very different in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I think their values as they come up, you know, in the same family with same parents, and their upbringing is the same, but man, you know, personality wise, totally different. My daughter's the outgoing, loud, you know, super confident. Sometimes I tell her, I'm like, I wish you didn't take martial arts because martial arts made you too confident sometimes. And then my son is much more reserved. You know, he's a humble beast. He's quiet. He's reserved, but you know, he's got this really strong work ethic. It's amazing to watch them grow up and the phases that they go through, because what they are now and how they grow up, those things tend to, you know, to change a little bit over time. But back to what you were saying about school, you know, kids crave attention, right? It doesn't matter if it's positive attention or negative attention. They just want attention. And I think that, you know, that was just a really important thing, because I think that when I was in school, I was, I don't know, there was just times that I would crave that attention in a negative way. I'd just do whatever. I'd be, you know, I'd get in trouble, or just like pay attention to me. And I'm trying to think, like, my parents paid attention to me. My parents did stuff with me. I had, like, so I'm kind of wondering where that stems from sometimes. But I see it in my classroom in the martial arts school every day. I can see kids want attention, whether it's positive or negative. They're going to do whatever it takes. But to your point, the positive reinforcement, the bringing out the greatness in them, that's going to take them much further than trying to beat them down and to put them into a box, and really allow them to express themselves and to really learn who they are and learn what their skills are, what their gifts are, and then allow them to use those gifts, I think, is important too. So listen, it's been a great conversation. We're just about at the hour mark here today, and we got a little late start, but I want to thank everybody for watching. Man, we got Gabby, Juanita, Hellkid was on here, Danny was on here. Everybody, thank you guys. Thanks for all your comments. Barry was here today, so thank you guys for the comments. Please share the video so everybody can learn a little bit more about Mario, and of course, subscribe to the podcast, Master Motivation Podcast on YouTube. Mario, any last thoughts before we end the show?
No, thank you so much, not only for bringing me on, and hopefully some of our words can hit some of the viewers to, again, just believe in yourselves, guys. Like, you hear it all the time, but if so many people can do it, you can also do it. You don't need to be a slave to anybody, right? And you're just a slave to your thoughts. So change your thoughts, change your mindset, change your life. I appreciate you, Jason, for having this platform to kind of, let people be aware of different things and to motivate them. And again, we're all human on different things. I would just like to say, can we throw a question out to all your viewers? Who would love to see Oreo Money Banks one-on-one with Mr. Jason Flame?
Oh, well, let's make it happen. Who's going to book it? Where are we going to do it?
Anyways, no, thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody that took the time to listen. Honestly, Danny Devine, if he's still on, I just want to give him a shout out. I had no idea how great of a coach he is, but he worked my butt in the other ring and he taught me so many things. And this is somebody that's been doing it a long time. And yes, I'm very rusty, but he's awesome. So if you want to learn from anybody in this wrestling business how to do it, definitely go check out Danny at MPW and just the whole gang. Love all of you guys. Thank you for the opportunity, and let's grow. Woo!
Love it. Hey, Mario, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate you and your energy and sharing your story, being vulnerable with us, telling us some things about your life and your family. So really appreciate that. And appreciate everybody that watches the show each and every week. I'm excited to always bring whether it's pro wrestlers, bankers, actors, comedians, martial artists, of course. We'll have a great lineup coming up, and we'll see you guys really soon. So thanks again, Mario, and thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you, guys.